Joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show in advance of his movie Wander in theaters, video on demand, and digital on this very day, none other than Aaron Eckhart. How are you doing, Aaron?
Excellent. Thank you very much.
You got it. So I remember on the conversation that we had last time you were in studio, I'm looking at you right here. Is that the black of Silver and Black of the Oakland Raiders, the beard and the shirt choice? That's the Silver and Black that you're wearing right here?
I peppered my beer in honor of the Raiders. That's the fan I love. No, this is old age here.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, and I haven't started dyeing it yet. No, I'm still a Raiders fan.
That's good.
You know, how can you not be? So, you know.
You're from Northern California, right? That's where you're born and bred into the Raiderdom through that way?
Yeah, I was born in Cupertino in San Jose at a time where I'm not sure I mentioned this on your show last time, but
go for it.
There was an office building there in San Jose, and they put up this weird sign. It was an apple. You see what I'm saying?
I do, because so many people with their iPhones, when they look down at their phone and see the time zone, certainly on the left coast, it says Cupertino on it.
Yeah, Cupertino. And so when I was a kid, that first, and everybody said it was an apple, rainbow colored apple, I guess. And everybody said, why would you name your company Apple? And imagine, because my dad was in the computer business, that's why we lived there. And had we put money into that little machine back then, I wouldn't be talking to you now. That is for sure.
You'd be self-funding all your movies. Let's put it that way. You'd be doing that. So you do have a memory of like, oh God, but like I noticed that's an interesting logo up there, huh?
Oh yeah, I remember that. I remember that place was a ghost town when I was growing up, and now you can't get through it. I mean, all the way up to San Francisco and Menlo Park and all that. When I was a kid, there's still orchards there, and the Raiders, were the Raiders and the A's and the Niners. It wasn't big business then that I remember.
Right.
Not like today. Today is beyond your imagination in terms of the business and all that sort of stuff. And now the rents. In fact, the house that I grew up in was just a little 3-bedroom house in a neighborhood. I think my dad bought it for $60,000. And I heard it just went for 2 something, and it's not even near these places.
Nice. Well, and now here I am. While I'm talking to you, I have some notes here on my iPhone, my iPad right here. I'm talking to you on a Zoom through MacBook Air. I mean, it's amazing what the world is, and we're all now connected, and and things have been totally changed. And that's why I'm, when you hear on these football games about next gen stats and like this player got up to 20 miles per hour on this play, and it was an 8% chance of this pass not being completed. I'm an old gen stat guy, wins, losses, in baseball, home runs batted, and I'm an old gen stat guy,
When does that start affecting the experience of the game as a fan? When you're more interested in stats, I know with fantasy football and betting and all that,
right.
But that's what kind of confused me in the last few years was, what's more important, wins and losses, or how fast he ran, or how many completions they have, or what's rush per play, all that starts to become more important, I think, instead of, hitting hard, playing the game right, being tough. So it's an interesting, different experience today.
Yeah, I don't know, Aaron Eckhart here on the Rich Eisen Show. I don't know much of a baseball fan or how into the sport you are, certainly these days, but a huge, for the World Series this year about Blake Snell, the Tampa Ray pitcher being taken out in the middle of a game with a shutout going, and he's only given up a couple hits because the analytics say it's time for him to come out based on all the numbers, and the gut and feel issue is gone, and I was one of those people like saying, what happened to gut and feel? You know what I mean? Like, that's what you're talking about, I think.
What do you think happened to it?
Good question. I'm one of those, I don't know. I'm one of those guys that's just like, hey, this pitcher's on a roll. Let's go. Like, again, maybe it's because I'm looking at you with your beard. You got a very Jack Morris look going, like Jack Morris, those days of going into the 10th inning of a game 7 of a World Series are gone. Like, we'll never see that again, Aaron.
The question is that comes into my head is the coach more interested in losing, or is he worried about losing, or does he want to win the game? And, because the coach, I'm sure his instincts are saying, leave him in.
Right.
Hey, what's it going to do to the game? What's it going to do to my player in the future? What's it going to do to his mentality? And do I want to keep a happy player? On the other hand, what are his bosses saying? Is the pressure from up in the booth and in corporate, is that really in the back of his head? Is that who's managing the game?
Yeah, I think what we're kind of hitting on here, just to, I guess, bring it a little full circle from where you're from, the Moneyball, the Oakland A's Moneyball, the movie Moneyball, the book Moneyball, and what it's become. And, it's just an interesting aspect, but analytics are, I guess, here to stay in many ways with sports. But like I said, that's why I like the old gen type thing. So who was your guy growing up, Aaron? Who was your Raider? Stabler, right?
Yeah, and for this exact reason, because the snake, he would run all over the field. Look at Fran Tarkenton. He didn't care. He wasn't going to get fired. That's why we love Brett Favre, and coaches that are going to go for it on 4th down and 1, in inches, and they're not going to run the numbers. They're just going to go for it and come what may. I think that in the long run, the fans will appreciate not only the coach and the player, but they'll appreciate the team and the experience more if you go in with that attitude. When you start playing prevent and all that sort of stuff, it's just no fun for the fans.
Could you imagine if somebody ever told Stabler, our numbers say you should throw it here. Right. Our numbers say you should just check down, don't throw it deep, stay in the pocket. Could you?
Bradshaw throwing, in the 4th quarter to Swan or something like that, he's got, 3 teeth, he's got the one bar, takes his helmet off and his hair's everywhere. That's what I love about football. Today it's a little bit more buttoned up. It's obviously more corporate. And you can say it's the same thing about the movie industry. It's the difference between what I call studio films and independent movies, like the one I just made. Right. The one I just made is Bradshaw with no teeth in the front and his hair everywhere, and he's going for it on 4th down. Studio films is more like, I won't say what, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more buttoned up.
Well, I guess it's better that if you're going to talk Bradshaw on a version of movies that you're not making, I guess the Bradshaw Smokey and the Bandit 2, right? That actual Terry Bradshaw that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Or he might have been in Cannonball Run. I mean, I'm trying to think about Terry's movie making history right now off the top of my head.
Good movies. Smokey the Bandit, Hooper. Remember Hooper?
Of course. Oh, Hooper. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I tell you, I don't know how old. I'm 52, so
yeah,
I'll tell you, we moved at a good time for movies and sports, I thought.
Oh my gosh, what's your favorite? Let's touch on this then a little bit here before we get to Wander, and then a little bit more of your filmography. What is your favorite sports movie, Aaron? What do you love?
Besides the one I was in Any Given Sunday. I played Nick Crozier.
That's right.
I can tell you stories about that movie.
Please. Okay. I'm all ears, Aaron. Please. What do you got? What do you got?
Just about Pacino and, as the coach. And I don't want to, it was a great time to be with. We had all of them. Everybody was on the set, because we made that movie in Miami. We had Keyshawn, we had Jim Brown, we had them all, and everybody came and visited, everybody that was in Miami. So you'd show up and everybody would be there. And it was fun seeing Al, who I don't know how much he knew about football at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And being the coach, and he gave that inspirational,
the inches, the speech of inches. Yeah.
It was electric. And you had all those pros in there, and they were riveted.
Yeah, like Lawrence Taylor's listening to that speech on inches, and he's locked in.
Exactly, Lawrence Taylor. And after Al, everybody spontaneously after that scene got up and clapped and erupted in cheers. And you had people like Lawrence Taylor, and going, "That's the best speech I've ever heard a coach say." And there's times where I was up in the booth in Dallas Stadium.
Yeah.
I mean, that was in from the car park. I don't know how many, it's got to be a mile or something.
Yeah.
And I was doing a scene up there and I was on the telex and Al's feeding me plays, and Al doesn't know any plays. He's like TYX 4-3, go left, like this. So I'm doing my thing. And I took off and Oliver wasn't even there because we were running 3 sets at the same time. Oliver was filming somewhere else. So I took off my telex and I ran all the way down the top of Dallas Stadium in the booth. I knocked on Al's trailer. Al opens the door. He's in a kimono robe. He's eating Chinese takeoff with a telex on. He goes, "Kid, what are you doing here?"
He's shooting a scene, giving you plays, but he's in real life sitting in a kimono eating Chinese food.
Yeah. Hilarious. The whole movie was like that. I remember walking on the set my first time, and Al was out there. Oh, this is a good story.
It's great.
I was first day. I just went to go visit the set. I wasn't even filming that day, and we're out on the practice field, and Al's out there running drills with the guys, and they had another practice squad going to the left of him, and everybody was working. All the cameras were working, right? So I get up there, and Oliver sees me. He goes, "Aaron, get in there." I go, "Al, I'm not even working. I'm not even in costume. I haven't." He goes, "Get in there. This is the big leagues." So I go in there and I stand next to Al, and Al looks at me and he goes, "What are you doing here?" So Oliver goes, "Aaron, go over there to this practice squad." So I go over to the practice squad and I'm standing and nobody knows who I am.
Uh-huh.
Nobody knows who I am. And these are big football players, tough dudes, big guys, strong, kill you. And they're running the play and the scene's going. But before Oliver says cut, these guys start to get lays off. They start to drop the ball and not working. So as a coach on camera in the middle of a scene, as an actor, I start yelling at them. "You pick up that ball. I never want to see you ever do that again. You work it through." I get right up in the face of this big ball player. And he has no idea who I am. He looks at me and goes, "You ever talk to me like that again, I'm going to kick your ass." Like that. And I said, "Hey, man, I'm your coach." So then Oliver says, "Cut."
Cut.
Right, because we're still in the scene, right?
Right.
Oliver says, "Cut." And I go, and I looked at the guy and I go, "I'm an actor. I'm your coach in the movie." He goes, "Oh." So it was just like that. The whole movie was just bananas. And Jamie and LL Cool J, and it was awesome.
And Charlton Heston is the commissioner of the NFL. I mean, what a great casting that is, right?
Cameron was in it, and Jim Brown really was an interesting character in that because, in the movie he was strong, but outside of the movie you could see that everybody just gravitated to Jim Brown. And especially all the young players in this, they gravitated. He would hold counsel, between takes and in the setups. People would ask his advice. "What do you think about this?" And it would be very quiet around Jim all the time because there was a reverence, that other players had for Jim. And I didn't know anything really about it, to be honest with you.
Right.
And then I sort of learned it as it went. And very interesting to see. He would give advice, and was a sage counselor.
Well, it's that way to this day too, Aaron. I mean, a couple of years ago on NFL Network, we had a show to celebrate his 80th birthday and invited all a host of Hall of Fame running backs from yesteryear, but not from Jim's year. Franco Harris and Marshall Faulk and Eric Dickerson, and to come in and celebrate with him. And it's the same thing today. It's still the same thing today. I hosted an NFL 100 all-time team show last year. Emmitt Smith came in, and honestly, it's all bowing down to the GOAT, Jim Brown, still to this day.
Is the advice that he would give people was not always what I thought it would be. He was a strict disciplinarian.
Mhm.
And he really talked to him about money and how to behave and how to comport yourself
Sure.
and that sort of thing. And I think it had an effect for sure.
Aaron Eckhart here on the Rich Eisen Show. There's some great stories right there, man. Let's talk about Wander. What you like about this film, and what people should know as they're making their decisions to go see a film, digital on demand, and also in theaters today. Go for it.
Well, standing up to power. When you think you're weak. To me, this movie's about instincts. A guy has an instinct, especially when he's grieving. He's on pills. He's isolated himself from society, but he has this instinct inside of him that says, "I need to follow that lead. I need to go track that down." And in the face of all opposition from his friends, his family, from the powers that be, he follows that lead and reaps the consequences of it. But he stands truth to power. And the interesting thing about this movie is I play a father that lost his daughter and lost his wife in a car accident too. And I don't think everything's as it has been said by the police. And so people start calling me a conspiracy theorist and all this sort of thing. And I've looked up, started to study that and all that. And I've come to the conclusion that when somebody calls you a conspiracy theorist, when you know it's true, they're trying to shut you down. They're trying to stop the conversation. They don't want you to ask any more questions. And then because of that, you have to ask more questions.
Right.
If somebody doesn't want you to ask questions, then you have to ask more questions. And Arthur, this character, everybody thought he's nuts, and he's got a nutty partner, Tommy Lee Jones, who's in a Hawaiian shirt and yellow tinted glasses. And so we go on this journey, and the journey's just weird. The movie's weird. It's a nice little thriller, and I think people will definitely enjoy the journey that this sort of whacked out guy goes on.
Yeah, with Catherine Winnick and Heather Graham as well. Tommy Lee Jones, do you, in any moment in time on the set when you're not working? I know, again, I'm assuming if you did shoot it in the last year that there are certain protocols, but just pick his brain at all? I mean, you've been there, done that. You've been in this business a long time. Or just go fanboy in a little bit of a way with Tommy Lee Jones?
I'm fanboy.
Yeah, right?
It's just like with Jim Brown, what we're talking about. I'm just at their feet. Tell me a story, man. What was it like in the old days when you were working, or what were you thinking when you just did that? Tell me how you do it. Or I don't say anything and I just watch it. And that's usually more instructive, because I say, I know the script. Obviously, I know his part. I know my part.
Right.
And I say, okay, what's your choice here? What are you going to do? What are you going to do with this? And interestingly enough, when you're looking at an Academy Award winner, American icon actor, it's usually the choice that you didn't pick. It's usually the opposite. A guy like that, and other actors I've worked with, they usually, when you want them to go big, they go small. And when you want them to go small, they go big. And you go, wow, I never would have thought about it. And that's what makes them great.
And, Tommy Lee Jones, let's just hit that one more time. And then I want to hit, before I let you go, another film from your filmography. Because again, Tommy Lee Jones is a part of Wander, which is the name of the town actually from this film. And just like so many other great movies, there's a nice double entendre about the title. The Fugitive for me is a remote drop. That's it. Like what's your remote drop movie where you are watching, or you're home, you're seeing it, you're flipping around, where just give me a couple of them for you, where you just drop the remote. It doesn't matter where you pick it up. You've got to finish it and blow off your schedule to finish the movie. What's that?
Well, I'm going to go back. I would say The Fugitive, definitely. That's an excellent. I mean, Tommy just commanded that movie.
Right.
He's something like that. His choices in that movie. The thing about Tommy is that he doesn't make a lot of movement. Like, I'm jumping around like a Mexican jumping bean. Tommy Lee Jones is straight, and he gives it to you straight. He's like Edward G. Robinson, and he's magnetic. And that's the way he was in The Fugitive. And he's still totally commanding. I think movies that affected me, mic drop, there have been so many, but Apocalypse Now for sure. I remember watching Poltergeist, just in my, Rocky for sure. I was just talking to Sylvester Stallone not too long ago about something. We were on the phone together. And I said, do you understand the effect that you've had on people? Do you understand what Rocky means to people like me that saw it in the theater 3 times in 1976? And that I walked out of there a new man, talking about a guy who's an up and coming, he's down and out. He's got a down and out coach. You know, he's got I mean, everything's against him and he makes it work. And he does it through hard work. And I think something like Rocky is an illustration of the American dream.
Well, for somebody in a position of what I do for a living, it's kind of a controversial take, Bryce. I don't call Rocky a sports movie. It's a love story. It's a love story. That movie is a love story between Rocky and obviously Adrian. I've mentioned that to Carl Weathers when he's been on the show. He thinks it's also a love story between Apollo Creed and Rocky. That movie works on so many. It is a remarkable film, and it also, in the day and age, you want to talk about great time for movies. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, that was also at the same time Network came out, which is another remote drop for me, and it's a required film for anybody in the television business to see Network and see what that movie is. And I rarely pick my computer up when I do the Zooms at home, but right there you could see that is none other than Peter Finch as the great Howard Beale that I have on the wall of my office.
Great picture.
That's a remote drop.
I mean, look at that era, everything from Butch Cassidy to, I mean, all the 70s. Look at Clint Eastwood, how many mic drops he's had or remote drops. Have I ever been in a remote drop? I think The Dark Knight probably is for some people.
No question about that. And that's what I wanted to kind of hit with you before I'll let you go, especially since for those, we're on a simulcast on radio, to describe your light, the way it's kind of hitting you, half your face is in light and half is in dark. I feel like I've been having an interview with Harvey Dent this entire time.
Right about that, but yeah.
It has been very, and we do have Christopher Nolan's coming on the show next week. What was that like working with him?
Tell him I said hello and thank you.
Of course.
The thing that I reflect back on that movie was Chris came from independent movies, and I still do them. Obviously he's blown up. I mean, he is the director in Hollywood. I mean, he is the guy. But he runs his movies like independent movies. They're small. He runs it. Everybody stays on set. There's not a lot, in my experience, there wasn't big catering. There's not, people don't run back to their trailers and isolate. They're expected to be on their set. They're expected to be there when you need them and work. Chris, I don't know if he still does it, but every day he'd wear a vest and a 3-piece suit. And he had his watch, in his pocket right here. I mean, he's Alfred Hitchcock. He is an auteur and he has a complete command. Remember one time I said to Chris, we were in England and we were in one of the largest hangars in the world. There's 2 of them right next to each other. I can't remember what they're called, but Harry Potter films there. And we had 3 of the largest green screens in the world working at the same time right there. And I said to Chris, without mentioning green screens, I said, Chris, we ought to do an action movie one day. And he looked at me strange and he goes, what do you think we're doing? And I kind of looked around at the 3 largest green screens in the world. I looked at a railroad car that's going to crash into this with a Batmobile and everything. I go, oh yeah, we kind of are doing one.
What was that scene like with you and Heath Ledger in the hospital? What was that like?
It was an interesting scene. They were setting up, the crew was setting up all the C-stands, the lights, all that sort of stuff. And so I went and I got in bed. And I must have been in bed an hour or 2 before, and just watched them and everything and getting used to, because I really didn't know what I was going to do. And then all of a sudden I see Heath come in from the side there. Didn't say anything. And he's kind of talking to himself and flicking his hands. Again, they're, walking around and setting stuff up. And then he starts walking around the bed like this, not saying anything to me, not really looking at me. And I'm looking at him. He walks around a few times, kind of just like this. And then the time he gets on this side, he flicks his arm out like that to me. And then he walks around And he looks at me strange this way. And then he comes back over and he did the same hand movement. I grabbed his hand. And we did that for however long they were setting up. We just did this dance together. And then before you knew it, we were so connected that all of a sudden the crew just sort of did their thing and they left. And we went into it. And by that time, we had done it so many times without speaking, or he would say something that wasn't even scripted. And then all of a sudden we just did the scene. And it was beautiful. And then the thing that I liked most about that was we were walking out after a hard day's work. It was very emotional. And we were tired and we're walking out and he puts his arm around me and he goes, "That was a good day's work." And for an actor to say that to another actor, especially where Heath was going, because I remember in rehearsal or somewhere, I said to Gary Oldman, one of the best actors the world has today, Gary Oldman, great actor. I said, "Heath's doing something special." And Gary goes, "Yes, he is." So everybody knew it. And even I remember talking to Chris about that. He goes, "Heath is doing something very special here." And we were all privileged to be around him watching that.
Aaron, this has been a blast, man. I'd love to do this as often as you are up for it. And Wander is available in theaters on VOD and digital today. Aaron, you're the man. Thanks for the time and the great stories. Just great.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
You bet it. That's Aaron Eckhart back here on The Rich Eisen Show.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.